Hey everybody, and welcome to EntrepreNINES. I'm John Wist.
And I'm Bonni Mace. We are two enneagram 9s who took the big leap into the world of entrepreneurship at a similar time. And this space is a space where we're inviting you to laugh and learn with us as we work to build businesses with soul. This is episode 46.
46.
I didn't even look at my cheat that time.
You did great.
Thank
you did really great. You're just getting better and better at it.
I just wanted credit for that. I could never be an actress because of all the memorizing that has to be involved.
Yeah.
I mean, that was loud.
That's okay.
And other reasons.
What's the other reasons?
I wouldn't be very good.
Oh, okay.
But also I'd never remember my lines. So
right. Okay. So the main thing is like lines.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
But also, I just wouldn't be a very good actress. I'm not good at lying with my face.
Okay. I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's something to be maybe proud of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Authenticity is one of my values.
It is. Yes.
So,
yeah. So it's okay to like
fair.
not want to lie with your face.
Yeah.
Bonni.
That's not what we're talking about.
It's not. Also not what we're talking about. I'm getting rocked right now by something. Allergies, something.
Do we need to like pause?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm just telling you like
if you see John like
this is,
on YouTube.
Yeah. I'm apologizing for like snot, like whatever comes next.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. It could be snot. It could be a lot of things. So
amazing. Like a catch in your throat.
Yeah. So
I was saying to someone in the church bathroom a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
That's where conversations happen. Yeah, how are you? And I'm like, I'm great. You know, just dealing with Maryland and her beautiful but deadly stage. And they loved that.
That's awesome.
They were like, I've never heard that. But that is so brilliant. And I'm like, I mean, it's true though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you look around and your eyes are like, yes, this is beautiful. And then my eyes are like, die, pollen.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I like felt, it was like one of those times where you can feel the shift from like, oh, I'm doing good right now with the pollen to
I'm dying.
I don't know what just happened. Like something embedded itself in my sinus cavity.
Yeah.
And now now I'm like this.
It's still there.
That's
the same one from last night.
Okay,
last night we had dinner.
Like. Yeah.
Yeah. And John is like, I have this pollen like lodged in my throat. And then I made an extra spicy like chicken sauce.
Yeah. Which was great.
It was good. It was very good. But I was like, oh, be warned. You know, Lauren cannot handle spice.
Right.
So I was immediately like, Lauren, do not touch this. I have made this too spicy for you.
Yeah.
And John's like, great, I'm going to take a shot. And
yeah, just give me all of it.
if it dislodges this pollen.
It could be great. Yeah, no, I think it's definitely the same thing. And I have tried some other methods this morning. It's just not working, Bonni. So, but anyways, that's also not what we're talking about.
We're starting off strong on the rabbit trails.
Oh, man. Oh, gosh. Okay, so what we are talking about today.
For real life.
For real life.
As Bluey would say.
Yes. So last episode, we did kind of a state of work like a 9.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, so it's been 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a recap overview of what we've been doing and a kind of preview of what's to come for Work Like a 9. But then we had another meeting of Work Like a 9 before this, like in between these two recordings.
Yeah.
And we did this fun thing where we kind of were like, let's look ahead and kind of workshop together, co-work together what our next few months look like as businesses. And we thought, why not do that here? Because it's kind of a good example of how it's become like a co-working, like a true co-working space.
Yes.
Instead of like a mentorship or like a let's solve a problem space. Like, it's like, okay, hey, this is about us like working together to solve some of our own issues, but at the same time we're kind of bringing different maybe approaches to the table all at the same time.
Or just like do something that we've been procrastinating for a very long time.
Right.
That's my case, at least with this particular one.
Yeah.
And I mean, the co-working part is super helpful, but there was also this part of me whenever we came up with this idea that I was like, John, I just haven't done this.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's true for other people in the group.
Are you all
because
feeling this way?
Yeah, like there's just this tendency with like solopreneurship, I think, to just like do what's right in front of you all the time.
Right.
At least for me, I've had a hard time with like the thinking ahead.
Yeah.
Like long term and setting aside time for that, because every time I sit down at my computer or to sit down to work or whatever, I think I have to produce something right now that's tangible.
Right.
And that's not real.
Right. So. Yeah. So this was a good chance for us, I think, to, number one, we did like, you know, because we wanted to structure it kind of how we structure a lot of things, which is like look back first, do a little bit of assessment, and then look ahead to what's next. And so I think it was good for all of us to say, you know, where have we been over the past 3 or 4 months? How have we been doing? And then what's next? So I'll let you have the questions. So I'm gonna let you kind of guide us through this a little bit. But
I will say you're kind of mashing up our last two Work Like a Nines. So we kind of strategically did this and kind of not strategically did this, because we are figuring things out along the way. Yeah. But in March we did the look back, and then in April we did the look forward, and then next month in May we're talking about actually putting on paper some marketing plan. Yeah. Because that's really difficult. Yep. Even, you know, John and I, who both worked in advertising and promotions and all of that for a long time. Yeah. Like doing my own promotions has been... It's hard. Annoying.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's definitely hard. So, yes.
So that's kind of the progression we've done.
Yeah. Thank you for reminding me that that's what we did.
Yeah, there's no way we could have fit the look back and look forward in 1 month, I don't think.
It's true. Yeah.
And that's really a really good thing, because everybody shows up very honest and thoughtful. Right. And like willing to process. Yeah. And so I think that's been like really good. Yeah. Part of it too is just like a space to actually think and process. Because I think a lot of Enneagram 9s can tend to be verbal processors too, because we're like looking for some cues. Yeah. You know, of like, am I on the right track? Someone give me the affirmation I'm looking for. Right. Yeah. I know you are a slower processor, but I know sometimes you verbally process, right?
Well, and I think, you know, what I ultimately need actually is probably verbal processing with people. But
does that speed it up?
It does. Yeah. And I think what I do is I feel like, you know, there's a little bit of that perfectionist streak that's like, I can't even like approach somebody with this for help until I actually seem like I know what I'm talking about or I know what I'm doing. And so I think sometimes I hold myself back from having those conversations that would actually probably speed things up. Because I think I've seen that in Work Like a 9. I saw that in the other coaching group I was in, was that if I had questions, or if other people were having something similar to me as like a issue, if I heard them verbally process it, I could then go, oh. That's what I needed to hear. That's what I needed to do. Like, that's the thing that I was looking for. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Yep. So I think it just, I think verbal processing is helpful. I think how we go about it probably is different depending on who we are. But once I'm in that space, it's better. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I said I was going to chill in my verbal affirmations, and I was not just then.
Oh, yeah. Bonnie's like, I did a lot of that last time. So, but I do, you know what I do? I do a lot of right. Right. Yeah.
We're gonna have like filler word tallies or something.
Yeah. I could tell you how many we have.
No, Descript, stay out.
Descript is my friend for that. So
it loves the filler words. Okay, so do you want to go through like the look back first and then go through the look forward all in one episode? Here we are. We're kind of getting.
Yeah, we're just gonna figure it out. Yeah, why not? Let's just do it. Well, let's just see how.
There's only 2 of us.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to take us as long. So, and we've done this. So I think that's the thing. Like, we're
no longer verbally processing.
Right. Like, we kind of have the answers to these things. Yeah. Also, the reason why we're doing this again is because Work Like a 9 is changing. And if you listen to the last episode, you'll hear some of those changes. But part of the reason why we're doing this is we want to bring on more people. Yeah. We want to open the space up to more people. But we also want to understand and recognize the limitations of ourselves and the group. And so we are going to close the group at the end of June. And then we'll reopen it up like 6 months later. But part of the reason why we're spending more time talking about this is because we want you to see kind of the different things that are happening within the group and the value that it brings and why we feel like it's a good place for people to be.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
So,
yeah, we don't want you to miss out.
Yeah.
When the doors close, if you're listening to this and you've been on the fence about jumping in and you've been like, when my life slows down, this is kind of us saying like, no, make the space for it now. Because when the doors open again, we're going to be looking at holidays and stuff. Like life, you just have to make space for the things that are good for you. Yeah. Because life is never going to slow down enough for this kind of, and I like to frame Work Like a Nine a little bit like self-care too. It's a lot of self-care because there's learning, there's like the commiserating is not the right word, but it's what I'm going to say of like, oh, I thought it was just me. I'm not crazy. Right. Kind of thing. Right. And so there's a lot of value in that. And $9 a month, I mean, it's more value than $9 a month. It's a steal. I'm just going to be honest. There are groups that are charging way more than we are for this level or less of value.
Yeah. So, and I think, you know, look, okay, we're striving to be better and more experts than we are. We're striving for that.
Yeah, like, we come prepared.
Yeah, like we are striving to be people who are worthy of leading a group, I guess you could say. But like, look, like I'm not gonna be like we're like business coaches. Like we're not.
No, I would never frame it that way.
No, but like the whole reason for this is to not sit in a room with a business coach, to be completely frank. Like it is to sit in a room with other people who are doing the in a different industry, right? But doing the same exact thing that you're doing, which is trying to start/carry on a business without completely destroying yourself or your life or like your family or whatever. Like
burnout.
Yeah.
Is the word.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. We're trying to avoid. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just one of those things. It's like, it's a different approach. And so I think that's where the value comes into is trying to handle things from that different approach.
Yeah. I mean, John and I, we're both very like focused on individual and like the human side of it. And so we're bringing the human side of it, not the spreadsheet side.
Right.
If you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. That could be our new tagline.
I just got caught on my microphone. Sorry. I leaned forward and just like hooked my own headphones on. Sorry.
I feel really sad that I missed that moment. I like looked away at my paper just in time to see you unhook.
Don't worry, you'll see it on YouTube. And if you watch YouTube, you can see it also. So okay. Sorry, we should probably do this.
Look back.
Okay. All right.
All right. So the first look back question we talked about was, what was the most meaningful win of your first quarter?
Yeah. Yep.
Or so far.
Yeah. So I would say, you know, for me, actually, the room we're sitting in, I think was one of my answers for that when we were talking about it, because this has been something that I've wanted to do for a long time. And, you know, it's like I think this is like the big reminder for me from this is like anything, there's the slow burn to get to where you want to be, right? Like nothing is going to happen just like that. Like it's just not.
So annoying.
Yeah. And I mean, look, there's people it happens to, right? Like I'm not.
Yeah.
But for the vast majority of us, there's a slow burn. And like I applied for a grant almost a year ago.
Oh yeah.
That's
crazy that it's been that long.
Yeah. That I'd hoped to get in order to try to fund something like this. Right. And, so it's taken a year to basically like see it through and a lot more creativity and a lot more work in the problem than a grant would have allowed for.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that I think that is a big win. And, and we're starting to get some interest and things like that, which is great. So, so opening this was the win. Now it's like the slow burn towards like, what does this even become?
Yeah.
So
getting that promotion plan. Annapolis Podcast Studio.
AnnapolisPodcast.studio. Also, you could go to AnnapolisPodcastStudio.com and it would take you to the same place.
Look at you go, snatching up
I
those
just bought
URLs. Like, that's a smart thing to do. That's a free hot tip from this moment.
Yeah. Snatch
up the URLs.
I think I bought
redirect.
4 URLs at once.
Yeah. It's not expensive to do.
No. And if you just spend a little bit of time and a little research, you can redirect everything to where you want it to go. So, yeah. But
so there you go.
Okay.
Annapolis Podcast Studio. If you're a local and want a podcast studio, you can be part of John's first quarter win.
For sure. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
It would be fun.
Yeah.
And it's a great space. I am like super happy that we're here.
Yeah.
Again. So, okay. For me, the most meaningful win of the first quarter was doing my rhythms class again. It got a new name. It got some dedicated marketing effort. So I went from calling it, this is a moment of vulnerability. Creating rhythms that make room for growth was the first name.
So it's a little mouthful.
Oh, mouthful. Which was fine when I wrote it for a church, right? Like, it was very internal. It was fine.
Yeah.
For my own business, no, it's bad. So now it's reconstructing life rhythms, which kind of like goes with my angle towards, seeing on the pond's getting me deconstructing, right? So
your broader
kind
of theme. Yeah. So
the idea that like you can actually build a life that nurtures you instead of the life that you've been told you have to live.
Right.
So anyway, I did reconstructing life rhythms for the first time in like more than a year, and it was a really good group.
Yeah.
And I rewrote almost everything. It was like all the same core themes, but I wrote it to be more in line with my business and where I am now, and like making space for people who are wandering a bit and not really sure like how to hold the spiritual part of their lives. I tried to make it a little bit more open for people there, and it was great.
Yeah.
I loved it.
That's awesome.
I realized I like teaching in that format, and so I need to move towards, I'm saying need because I put myself in this predicament of like, if I'm going to do this, I need to do it like very soon.
Yeah.
I'm doing some enneagram coaching in that same kind of format.
Yeah.
With like, I did it in a pay week camp model.
Yeah.
And gave like a cost suggestion, you know, of what it could cost. And then people showed up for what they could afford.
It's awesome.
And it was really good. And I got a lot of positive feedback. Some of y'all still haven't done the actual form yet. You know who you are.
We need your feedback.
I need it for the websites and the social media. Because I can't keep using the same reviews.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's good.
Yeah. So that was my big one.
So I feel like it's a good pivot point. Can we stick with yours for a second?
Oh, sure.
Because I feel like we could pivot to your look ahead a little bit, because you already started kind of talking about it. Yeah. But do you want to do more on the look back first? Sorry.
Yeah. Sure, John. You go wherever you want to go. I'm following your lead. You're a great storyteller.
No. Okay. So, I mean, you already talked about it a little bit. So just take us down the rabbit trail a little further of like, you did the class.
Yeah.
You learned that you enjoy it. So what does that mean for your next few months?
Okay. So it means I need to stop avoiding particular things, because what I enjoyed was teaching in that format, like in a small group, and having people kind of be able to reflect back to me, because it was set up in in a Google Meet.
Right.
And I would send like a follow-up email each week with a ton of, if you ever work with me, one thing you're going to realize is I send a lot of reflection questions.
Yes, you do.
And I don't send it to be like, you have to do your reflection questions. I try to send them as points of like, this is something for you to think about and sit with, because if we don't think about and sit with it, we're not going to move forward intentionally. So I liked the format of teaching that way. And it was kind of just this light bulb of like, what I've heard often is that one-to-one coaching feels a little inaccessible because of how I have to price it.
Yeah.
So if I can kind of lower the barrier to entry and do a group class of like, Enneagram 4s or whatever. Yeah. And then if somebody really resonates with it and wants to continue on with one-to-one coaching, then they can do that. So what I need to do is kind of like, I need to change up my website and make things a little bit more accessible in that way, and set it up to have like individual and group coaching. And then I need like a separate side that's just for teams versus individuals. So there's a lot of things to do on my website that I'm avoiding. And then there's just the fact of like, I need to put some on the calendar and promote it.
Yeah.
and do some promotion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's kind of like,
That's good.
does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's good. I think it's what we had time to do was in the 1 month was to kind of look back and then kind of set everybody up for like, okay, we're going to look ahead. And also
Here comes busy spring and summer.
right. And also like, then like now we've set them up for our next one to be like, okay, what is it that because we're looking ahead because of what you've done in the past, like what is it that you're actually driving towards and like that you're going to take some steps on.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. Like seeing how they all kind of fall into place. And I think it's good. Again, it's just like a good reminder that like this all happens in a slow burn.
Yeah.
Like that's 3 months of your year.
Yeah.
Was
a whole
month,
quarter.
right? 1 month we're going to look back.
Yeah.
1 month we're going to look ahead. Then we're going to take action. And it's like, that's just, it's a more sustainable pace. And so I think it's good to remind, I think it's been good to remind our friends in Work Like a Nine that like, we got to kind of intentionally take a little bit more time in each one of these areas to then actually come up with something that is going to probably be more intentional, more where you actually want to be.
Yeah.
Versus kind of just like,
I think focused would be the word I would go with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of randomly like choosing what's next. Right. So that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's fun though is my timeline. I'm going to have the marketing plan done before our next meeting. So I'll be figuring out a marketing plan for something else at Work Like a Nine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cause if I'm going to do these, man, this is coming out May 1st. And so I will have listed whatever Enneagram numbers group I want to do.
That's okay. That's okay.
At that point, they're going to be live and in the world. And I need to like hustle on getting some of the information out. So
Yeah.
that's the other thing is we always need a deadline. And so some of this helps with that too. So that's that was my win and my, okay, I'm going to follow this.
Yep.
And that's some of it is looking back to reflect on the fact that Rhythms was a win. And that this space is a win, right? Then gives us the ability to say, oh, this was really life-giving. And this was something I've been looking forward to for a very long time. And I'm going to chase that direction because it worked for me and it worked for the people I'm leading. And so we're just going to keep like pushing this way. Whereas I think without the reflection, you could keep pushing into something that's very draining or that's not working or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. So. I mean, I think we've talked about that before too. Like we've talked about how we've ended up in places we didn't actually want to be.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that we didn't have or didn't maybe take the time. Like, looking back on it now, maybe it's more so we just didn't take the time to consider what actually was the life-giving thing that we were doing and what was not. Because sometimes like I do think some of the issue is the thing that is often not life-giving is the thing that pays the bills.
Sometimes, yeah.
You know, I think it can be that because, you know, you're seeing an opportunity where money is versus seeing an opportunity where passion is.
John, yes, prime example. I just headbutted the microphone. It was like a face palm with the microphone in case you're wondering what that noise was. I agreed to help make a logo. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Like it was quick. It's going to be quick money, blah, blah, blah. But I was sitting there working on it at the end of last week and I was like, gosh, dang you, Bonni Mace.
Why am I doing this?
I could be working on my website and instead I agreed to do this logo and it's going to be fine, but I don't want to do it. Why am I doing this again? And it's that exactly what you're talking about is that insecurity of chasing after money, security, instead of like what's mutually beneficial for me and the people I'm trying to serve.
Right. Yep.
So
yeah. I mean, I've been caught in that a lot. So I think this is a good reason to have, again, like a place where you can be to be asked the question, be given the time to think about it, and then like have people who are going to hold you accountable to respond to the question. Like you can't just sit with a question and just like, then let it drop. Yeah. So, you know.
And people are very graceful with your answers as well.
Yeah.
And so that's.
Yeah. Well, there's not a wrong one.
Right.
Right. Like, I mean, I think that's, you know, we can challenge something, right? Because we could say like, oh, well, but is that really like where you is that really where you need to focus, or do you need to focus somewhere else? Right. We can challenge, but it's not us saying it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
That's a decision that only you can make. So yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Whew. All right. Speaking of challenges, the next look back question that we practiced from March was, what challenge have you been avoiding? Yeah.
I can't remember.
It's okay.
I'm trying to remember.
You can have a new answer.
I know. I'm trying to remember what I said. I think that the thing that, well, at that point, probably too, that I had been avoiding was to figure out how to intentionally market this space. Like, that is not an area that I spend much of my time for my own stuff.
Yeah.
And so
we always joke about your social media presence and marketing presence.
Terrible. So I think to then turn that, to a different kind of space was a little difficult. I will say, like, since then, right? Like, spent a lot more time on the website. Spent a lot more time, like, getting kind of things together and using a little bit more of, like, maybe where my skills are to try to figure out, like, what's the best place for me to spend that time to try to get the word out. I'm still, I will say, like, I still struggle with, like, a little bit of thinking it's self-promotion. Yeah. Right. And like, we talked about this. I don't, did we talk about this on the last, I don't know if we talked about it on the last podcast, but like, no, I was during Work Like a Nine that we talked about, like, I need to reach out to specific groups. Right. And be like, hey, look at this. And like, I'm a little bit like,
great podcast.
But what
studio.
if they don't like it?
Like, then they won't podcast.
Right.
John.
Yeah, I know. But I'm in that place right now where I'm like I even, I'll admit it. Like, I even like typed up a post in a Facebook group of like local business.
Did you not post it?
I didn't. I was like, no, can't do it. Not ready yet.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah. And that may have been a little bit before I felt like the website was in a good spot.
Yeah.
Which was a bit of a factor. But now that it is, it's just, I just need to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm avoiding that.
Put it out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Building a whole new network is like the wild, wild west. I will just affirm also, this is something that happens in Work Like a Nine. I will affirm your fear of it because, like, having to completely build because I'm feeling some of that sensation myself with like the people on my email list are not the right people. Right. And I'm working on building it on social media. Like, I'm starting to get more of the right people on social media, but it is a drag. Like, it's such a drag. Yeah. And like, you didn't have an established network of podcasters in Annapolis. Like, right. So you're like, you're building an entirely new network. Yeah. Like, they're out here in this, Anne Arundel County area. Like, there are people podcasting out there. Yeah. But you just don't know them. Right. And so, like, getting out there to find them is really intimidating because it is like, well, what if these strangers hate me? Like, what does that say about me?
Right. Yeah. Then there's some other questions.
Yeah. Like, I'm going to go hype myself up in therapy before I made this post. Yeah. Or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
We're vulnerable here.
Oh my gosh.
That's funny. Yeah. I'm making you squirm. I'm sorry.
A little bit. It's okay. It's more like my uncomfortability just with like, like I think you put time into something, you want it to be good, right? Yeah. You want it, and everybody does that, but
you don't want to sell off the podcasting equipment because it flops. If I just poke right at your fear.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No. Right? Yeah. Oh. Yeah. For sure. I mean, I think that is, like right now, like it's not a big part of my business, obviously. Like it's just not, and I have other things to supplement that, which is great. But it's like, it would be great if this were a bigger part. Yeah. And so like to put that risk a little bit, I guess, maybe on the table and like feel that a little bit more deeply is, I think, a little hard. Yeah. To feel that. So. Yep.
With all the strangers, there's this big, giant question mark.
Hanging out in the other County. I know none of these people, and that's probably like my introvert of like being like, I gotta talk to new people.
It's no joke.
Oh my god!
Like trying to put yourself out there to new people as an introvert is like, no thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I needed I mean, I did a lot of that last week, and I was like, I need like 80 naps.
Right. Well, it's like, why can't I just
Maybe
like
85.
like, and this is like actually talking to Darren and Allison here, like at Anchorage. It's like, why? Like, I would love, because they were like, oh, we probably need to put a like form up first and like have conversations with people, because you don't know like what time, like what days of the week to be open and at what hours and all this. And I'm going like, oh, dang it. Like, I thought I was just going to be able to put up a calendar. Somebody books a spot. I walk in, be like, hi, how you doing? Here we go. There we go. And we're gone, and it's, and so it's like, it's definitely like poking at that idea that I can't just like set it and be a little bit more of a machine about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to like talk to people. Mm-hmm. And it like, it's okay. Like I can talk to people, Bonni.
You can.
I
You're
can
good
do
at
that.
it. You're good at it.
I can do that.
You're an enjoyable person to talk to.
But I have to get there first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, yeah.
Discovery calls.
Oh
That's
my
it's called
gosh.
in like the coaching world too. And it's like, ask me how I've not done. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
What? All right, is there a challenge you're avoiding, Bonni?
Yeah. And it's planning ahead.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think too, there's been this weird like dance that I've had with like at our ministry job. I was the one that was pushing for strategic brain and like thinking ahead.
Yeah.
And that like always got a lot of pushback. And now with my own business, like I came out strong, like with strategery, and I like had filled out a whole calendar with like my social media plan.
Yep.
And then it's just been like one pivot. We have a whole episode on pivoting.
Oh my gosh.
So it's been like one pivot after the other and more clarifying after the other and more like soul searching. Am I doing this because somebody said I was good at it or because I want to?
Yeah.
And so I got a little gun shy about planning ahead because I'm like, what's the point? I'm just going to destroy my own plan.
Like once you do it enough, you're like, oh.
Yeah, like only a fool is going to keep this up.
Oh
like,
my gosh.
So, and I know that's not true. And I know I have more clarity and more direction of like where I want to go.
Yeah.
And so it's just a matter of sitting down and like actually planning it. But the other challenge of it is I don't know how to do it in small chunks.
Yeah.
And so what I would like to do is leave for like 48 hours and just think about all of this stuff.
Yep.
And that is not available
currently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I need to figure out how do I do this in like the very segmented flow of life that I have right now.
Yeah.
With small kids and a 3-year-old who thinks naps are for babies and, all of these things. Yeah. He's killing me.
I know. Yeah.
And yeah, so just that I haven't quite figured that out. And I know there's like a larger story that I have that I need to figure out how to tell well. Yeah. And so it's kind of like the thing that I'm avoiding is this like big umbrella that once that big umbrella is there, then I'll have kind of just like that flywheel going. Yeah. Like, well, here's what I'm talking about. Here's the story I'm telling. But I need all of that to click for me. Sure. And I think some of this is my 9-ness of doing it in segments instead of being able to sit there with the whole picture for as many hours as I want. Feels incredibly challenging. Yeah.
Because we want to see the whole picture.
Yeah. I want it to make sense. Like, I want to sit down once. I want to make sense of it. And then I'm going to go. And that's just not.
It's just not how it's happening.
It's just not a thing. Yeah. I want to sit down and I want to completely rebuild my website in one sitting. Yeah. Like, first of all, that's unrealistic if you're trying to build a website.
Yeah, don't try that.
Don't try that. I've been building websites for like 15 years and I know better than this, but I still have like the impulse to do it.
Well, it's the same, like honestly, it's the same or similar struggle I hit with even editing for me. Like you want to be able to sit down and like see something through to fruition as much as possible, right? And just kind of, you want that uninterrupted time. And that's kind of, I've had to learn for me, because editing is a huge part of what I do, that there's days I need to not, I just need to tell myself this is not an editing day. Yeah. Because if I even try, I'm just going to get frustrated. Like I'm just going to, cause I'm going to have to stop. And I'm going to have to, like, I'm going to want to come back later. And I'm not going to have time to come back later. So I might as well just not even commit my time to it today.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to happen.
It's such a fine line to walk too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like, okay, so there's the one hand that's like, you finally sit down at your desk. I know this is a common experience for you and I.
Yeah.
And probably for some of you out there. Yeah, sit down at your desk. The toddler is put away for the rest time or nap or whatever.
Right.
And within, you get in a groove. This is how it always goes for me. I get in a groove, and then I have to poop. Mommy, I have to go poop.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's like, okay, groove interrupted.
Yep. Yeah.
Like right away.
Yeah.
And so then you gotta like wipe the butt, and then it's like, okay, I'm back to rest time. And now I gotta get back in the headspace of a professional instead of a parent. On the one hand, I wouldn't trade it for the world. Yeah. Like I've been thinking lately, like what a gift this season has been to be with my youngest son so consistently and be there as my older son is establishing like his elementary career and all these extracurriculars and things that would have just been more challenging in my last context. And wow.
Like, holy crap, how do we do this?
Yes. This is impossible. Go to school already.
All day.
Yeah,
please.
all day. Get out of my house. Poop there.
Let someone else wipe your butt. Yeah. No, I mean, I feel that very strongly. And I think that is like been part of, and I think it's something that, kind of to pull it back around to work like a nine.
Yeah.
Like we've been able to bring those struggles to the table, and say like, man, it's just hard to sit here and actually get work done for an hour.
Yep.
And to hear like, yes. Okay. Oh, thank you, Jesus, that someone else feels that pain.
And to have someone further down the road be like, hang in there. Yeah. It changes.
Yeah. And that's, I think, helpful to understand that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
But also I think, to your credit, Bonni, you're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you.
And you've made a lot of progress this year without necessarily having the time to make the progress. Do you know what I mean? Like you're pointing yourself in a different direction than you were at the beginning of the year. And there's a lot to that already.
Thank you for that.
So, yeah.
I appreciate it. It is one of those things that you're like, man, if I had figured out this part when my kid was napping consistently, like it would have been like we would have been grooving sooner. But that's just not. Yeah. That's just not the timing. And you have to just embrace it. Yeah. And like I said, grateful and also like just recognizing the challenge of the season.
Yeah. So. And also that like timing is a thing. Oh. Like timing is a real thing. And like the fact that I think you're probably in a little bit of, again, like a pivot or like a redefinition space in a time where you don't really feel like you have time for it. It's probably a good thing. Yeah. Like it's probably forcing you to spend more time than your 48-hour retreat.
Yeah, that's true. My ideal 48-hour retreat.
To process some of that.
Yeah.
Because I think I've felt that this year. That like timing is a real thing of like, oh, like I didn't need to take that job, or I didn't need that to actually come through because all of a sudden now all this is happening, and I think that is just, it's how it happens sometimes.
Yeah. And the timing is totally out of your control, which is kind of the frustrating part about it. Yeah. Is that you can only really be grateful for it in hindsight.
Yeah. In the moment, it's the worst.
It's the worst. It just feels like a block you can't overcome. Yeah. And then when you look back, you're like, oh, well, this timing made sense. Right. Right. But yeah. Anyway. Yeah. All right. How many more of these do we have time for? Huh?
Well, I would say this. Why don't we wrap it a little bit?
Okay.
But let's give everyone a little bit more of a idea of kind of where we ended our last session together on Work Like a Nine, which is what we envision ourselves. You've already talked about this a little bit, but just maybe give a little bit more specific about where you're pointing yourself for the next 3 months.
Yeah. So let me offer this to listeners. Oh my gosh. I just all about the table. For listeners, what we did to start out in April was I literally set a timer and I said, look at May, June, and July.
Yep.
On your calendar. If you're like me, you've refused to do this. But if you're like me, you're refusing to do this because May, June, and July are off the chain.
Yeah. Right.
Like crazy town.
You don't want to
my inner waters are already very
the river
rocky.
is rocking and rolling.
Yeah. And that's why I'm like, oh, let's just hang out in this calm season over here. I see the rapids ahead. I refuse to acknowledge them.
Yeah.
So I kind of forced us to acknowledge them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we did. I literally set a timer. Everybody muted their microphones, and we just like barreled through our calendars to try to see what was coming. And then we defined work events that are present and what work events we're paying attention to the fact that aren't there, but that we want there.
Yep.
And then also, especially if you have school age kids, acknowledging the fact that your daily routine is about to be turned upside down.
When school ends. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just nuts. Yeah.
I mean, you could send your kid to all day camp, but it's
different.
Wildly different.
Yeah.
And so just acknowledging and bringing space for that and recognizing like, okay, now what are the new limits that you need to consider?
Yeah.
That are coming up in these next 3 months of chaos. So that set the stage. And then the questions we followed up with were, what is it that we need to start now here in April?
Yep.
And this was April 15th that we did this. This is mid-month that we had plenty of time to start thinking about it. What do we need to start now that we hadn't yet considered when we start to look forward? Do you have anything that needs to be rescheduled? Like I gave this of like, where was a point in your calendar that you felt your body like tense up when you were looking at it?
Yeah. Like, oh, that's going to be hard.
Yeah. And then what's in your control in that section of calendaring to like potentially reschedule so that you don't have quite that visceral reaction. Like those are things I'm learning to pay attention to in myself. Yeah. And that I think is helpful like when we pay attention to in ourselves because again, especially as Enneagram 9s, like you're going to notice the tense up and then you're going to pretend that never existed. And then it's going to show up and you're going to be like, ah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Why didn't I pay attention to this sooner?
Right.
So paying attention to that, if anything needs to be rescheduled. And then do you need to let go of anything or ask for help in certain areas? And then that led to like what can be your primary goal for the summer. So that might be a good way for us to just like focus on, because we didn't get to talk about that one out loud yet. That'll be something that we come back around to in May. Yep. So give me a little preview.
Yeah. Yeah. And then from there, like, what does that mean? Like what's your primary goal? And then what does that mean for how you are communicating that?
Yes. That's what we'll be focusing on.
So that's what will be our focus in May. But so I think what was really helpful for me, and I mentioned this during the call, was like because we had 2 separate times, you gave us 2 timers. And so in that first like round,
we needed more time.
And in that first round, I really focused on kind of the, like, what is already on my calendar that is predominantly family oriented, because it's just like you said, like kids are home. This is when camps are. This is when vacation is. This is when kids are at home, all of that. And then the second round was me looking at what I currently had in the pipeline with clients, what I was already working on, and how would that change as each month went on.
Yeah. May, June, July.
And recognizing, there's people that are going to be like projects that are going to be finishing, and I just need to assume that those people are dropping off. Right. Like I can't assume that they're going to start a new project like right away, and it's just going to keep rolling. So I'm going to assume and so you see like the list, shrink, and it's not like it's small, but it's enough to say, okay, I've been here. Yeah. I've been here before and been unprepared for it.
And remember the stress
and remember the craziness of that moment. And so how can I, whether the list grows or not is not the question. The question is, how does consistency remain for me? And so, because what I mean by that is like, I don't necessarily need more clients. I just need to understand what work is happening and what work is actually like making me money in order to not be caught in a cycle of like a valley. And so, that's been my kind of goal, and dovetailing that is again, like this space, so like understanding what role this space starts to take on that list.
Yeah.
Because right now this isn't there.
This is one of the question marks.
Right.
Yeah.
So what does that add to my list, as the months go on? And maybe what that is doing is it's offering me space to focus intentionally here so that things are added from this space. Yeah. So that's kind of where my brain's been at. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And I'm glad that result came for you. Because we've talked about it on the podcast before,
right.
like those dips in revenue and like project load feel like moments of failure when really they just might be. I mean, this is year 3, right? Like we're working towards year 3.
Yep.
So that's finally going to be the like rhythm of things. And so for it to not feel like a massive failure, but to embrace just the idea that, oh, this is just the rhythm. Right. This is like how I need to manage my finances and my time and my marketing and, all of those things. It's finally coming together. Yeah. 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 My primary goal for summer. And so I realized when I did this, I counted backwards for my idea of these Enneagram small groups and was like, this is the absolute last week I can start this. I've got to be done. Yep. I've got to have a class rolling by this date. Yeah. And so that was good because I had been avoiding counting that. And so my primary goal for summer is kind of recognizing like we're planning to take a massive road trip. Yep. And there will be some work, but I also know myself and know that it's not going to be like a time that I'm doing.
You can't commit a ton of time to
it. Yeah. Like if I have clients, I'll be able to work them in. Right. But like as far as the marketing and like moving ahead projects that are just for me, I'm going to be tempted to like let those go. Yeah. So I need to make some good timelines. I need to figure out my fall promotional offers. Yeah. And I got to launch these dang groups by the week of May 6th. So time is coming, my friends. Feel free. I might do one for 9s because I have material for 9s, 4s, and 6s ready. Okay. And so I actually was tossing around and playing around with the idea that maybe I'll just do one for each. Yeah. We'll see.
That'd be awesome.
But then I promptly left town after work like a 9, so I've made 0 progress on any of this
but that's
stuff.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of my primary goal for the summer is thinking ahead to fall. Yep. There's also part of me that's like, okay, I'm going to be in Texas, and I know people in Texas. Maybe I can do a promotion of like where I can do some teaching in Texas. Nice. So just things like that I have to.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I like that.
Like, hey, I'll be in Texas. Yeah. Maybe Huntsville, Alabama will want me. Like we're taking a road trip. Who's in Kentucky that needs some Enneagram training? Yeah. Yeah. So that's where I landed. Nice. On all of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think it just points to like, it doesn't have to be one thing, right? Like it doesn't have to be only one thing that you're doing, but you are picking one thing to focus on. Yeah. Which is like classes. Yeah. Like you want to do classes this way. And so that's where the focus is going to be. Yep. I want to try to figure out how to make this
podcast
more part of what I do, you know? Okay. How, like, what does that look like? I don't know. So yeah.
Telling the people.
Yeah. So yes, telling people that we exist, like that is.
That's going to be a big part of it.
Oh my gosh. I'm just thinking back, like that has always been an issue. Like like telling people that you exist. Like that's just, feed my 9. Okay. So that's that. Work like a 9. Let's just end with a couple quick little details.
Next one's May 20th.
May 20th is our next meeting. So kind of just so you understand, like you don't have to like come to May 20th to get in before the doors close, right? That's not like the thing. It's just
you would benefit from it.
Right. But we're going to close the doors end of June. And then open back up 6 months later. EntrepreNINES.com is where you can go to learn even more, sign up, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, if you want to join us in May, May 20th would be awesome.
Please do. We'll be looking for your sign up. Only $9 a month, as we've mentioned. Yep. And you can cancel anytime.
And Bonni is our timer. Like she tries to hold us for like a good solid hour. Yeah. And then we're done.
I think the longest I've gone over and apologized profusely for was like 6 minutes.
Yeah. So we want to respect time. And so we squeeze a lot in, but yeah.
And then the other benefit of Work Like a Nine is we have an open Voxer channel for Work Like a Nine members. And in the Voxer channel, we share, I share a prompt each week. And we respond to that, but it's also open to one of our members is promoting a conference she gets to be a part of, and how she was a guest on a podcast. So that came through recently. And I think I'm going to ask why my tulips didn't open to our flower farmer.
Nice. That's a great question. I would have
Yeah, that's probably coming. Because I bought these tulips at Wegmans and I put them in the water and I trimmed the bottoms. But now I'm like, was I not supposed to trim the bottoms?
I don't know.
So I'm going to ask that because that's just the vibe of the Voxer channel. I'm going to be like, what happened to my tulips?
And Wegmans usually has great flowers.
Flowers. Yeah. So it was really disappointing that they didn't do their whole like open, because a good tulip, they open all the way and then they all their petals
blow up. Yeah.
So satisfying. But they didn't do it. They just shriveled up. Anyway, so that is like
that's funny.
Yeah, that's like a little part of Work Like a Nine is that Voxer group. And you can ask about tulips, or you can say, hey, I'm working on this social media graphic. My brain's fried.
Yep.
Is everything spelled right?
Yeah.
Nobody's done that yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
But I would be open to that.
Yep.
So that's a big promotion, and it's EntrepreNINES with multiple, like at the S at the end.com. Like entrepreneur, except for not the preneur, because that's the hard part to spell.
Right.
You just switch
just make it nines. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. So we'd love to have you.
Yeah.
Please come.
Yeah. Just like any other week, we'd love for you to give us a rating and review so other people can find us. And what else? Anything else?
No, I mean, this is a longer episode. Welcome to we basically played out a Work Like a Nine meeting.
Yeah.
And essentially, even with our rabbit trails at the beginning, because sometimes we do start that.
It can happen. Yeah, it can happen sometimes.
Real life.
Real life. For real life. Okay. All right. Well, on that note, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.